All right, good morning, good morning, good morning. Say, I want y'all to come on in, come on in, come on in. All right, it's official. I really wanted to jump this off on Labor Day, right? I wanted to jump it all off on Labor Day, but because Labor Day is the day to represent the workforce, but I didn't get a chance to jump it off on Labor Day, so here we are. So, man, y'all already know if you've been paying attention to anything that I have going on, if you've been paying attention to any of my posts, to, anything that I've shared related to this business thing, then you may have some idea of how passionate I am to be able to disseminate this information to the people, man, because it's so much going on, so many different things that I'm just going to talk about on my platform. That I'm building. I've been building my platforms for a while, but now I'm just really ready to just hammer down, just lock in, and just go all the way because it's getting bad out here. It's like the more I wait, to get the people to real, the more that these other people are coming with this false information. And one of the things that I want to clear up, and listen, guys, all right, listen. It's a lot of people that don't know me, right? But y'all gonna get to know me. I'm not an attorney. You may see, one of my alter egos is the LLC Law Boss. I'm not an attorney, but I am just as skilled um, as they are. I don't know how else to put it. Um, so my level of research and the things that I bring to the people does not come from YouTube, does not come from Google. I don't research YouTube or Google and find something and regurgitate it. I actually go and study the law. I spend bread on law books. I spend bread on law journals. I subscribe to things lawfully, I guess, for a lack of better words, right? I'm just trying to get in the groove, man, because I want to be able to flow. I want to be able to give you guys all of the pertinent information that you need. All right. So my shows, they're going to get better and better and better the more I do them. I'm here now. All right. I'm here and I'm not going to stop. All right. So for those that, first off, I'll say for those that want to start a broadcast, a podcast, or anything like that, and if you like my avatar and how I'm able to set all of that up, what I'm using, as you can see in the top, it may be on your left, the top left, if you see that Loom AI up there. Loomy AI is the software that I'm using for my avatar, for my background and for my whole setup. And I'm streaming from StreamYard. All right, I have you got a free version, and then you got several paid versions. I think I got the middle one. It's like 25, $30 a month or something like that. So there you go on that. Um, but man, they done tricked us, y'all, and they continuing to trick the people. They've got black people, white people, Asian people. They have all sorts of people that what I would like to call are railroading people or sending people down a path that it's not illegal to send you down that path, but it's going to stunt your growth. It's not going to allow you to build that fortune that you really really want to build. And I want to say that's for the S corporation. I'm knocking the S corporation all the way. I'm just knocking it because I don't see any use for it, because it is not. And again, there are others that definitely think the contrary. And one of the things that I want to add, all of my information is not legal advice, okay? All of this is educational things, educational opportunities for you. All of this is educational, all right? Because I found better ways, better options, and better ways um, when you travel down that C corporation path. All right, and I'm gonna break all that down to you. I've been doing this for several years now. My research is impeccable, and everything that that I will relay to you all. It's from a legal and a lawful perspective, right? So I've studied the laws on everything. All right. So the first thing that I'm gonna do today is we're gonna go over some of the, we're gonna compare the S corporation and the C corporation. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go through a little comparison deal. All right. So the C corporation is really the default corporation under the IRS rules, right? The S corporation is a corporation that has elected a special tax status with the IRS and therefore has some tax advantages, right? So both of the business structures get their name from the parts of the Internal Revenue Code that are, that they're taxed under. So C corporations, they're taxed under subchapter C, while S corporations, they're taxed under subchapter S. To elect the S corporation status when forming a corporation, there are some extra steps that you have to take, form that must be filed with the IRS, and you have to meet all of the S corporation guidelines, right? So here are some of the qualities shared by both, like the C corporation and the S corporation. They both provide limited liability protection. So corporations offer limited liability protection. So basically, the shareholders, the owners, are typically not personally responsible for business debts and liabilities. So this is true whether it's taxed as a C corporation or an S corporation. Okay. Another thing that they share in common is that they're both separate legal entities, right? So the C corp and the S corp, they're both separate legal entities created through the state. Now, how do you form those? All right. Formation documents, they must be filed with the state. The documents, they're typically called articles of incorporation or certificate of incorporation. They are the same regardless of whether you choose to be taxed as an S corporation or a C corporation, right? So S corps and C corps both have shareholders, directors, and officers. Now, shareholders, they're the owners of the corporation, but it's the corporation that owns the business. The shareholders, they elect the board of directors. The board oversees and directs the corporation affairs and decision making, right? But they're not responsible for the day-to-day operations. And that's if you choose to have a board. All right. And we'll get into that a little bit later. Because when you hear me talk about the S corporation and the C corporation, right? A corporation is a corporation. The corporation doesn't change, right? The fact that it's a corporation. The difference with the C corp and the S corp again is basically how they are taxed, right? Okay. So you can form when you go set up a corporation and you go form a corporation, the default corporation status is a C corporation, right? Let me break this down. So you got the corporation and you've got the S corporation. They both are corporations. The only difference is, again, as I mentioned, how they are taxed, right? Whether it's subchapter C or subchapter S, right? Now, how does the LLC come into play with all of this, right? So your LLC is one of the most flexible entities that are out there that was created by the states, right? And I believe it was Delaware that was the first state to create the LLC, and all of the other states really piggyback on Delaware because Delaware was the best to do it. So whenever you hear people talk about a Delaware LLC, Delaware was the first state to, I believe it was Delaware. It may have been another state before Delaware, but Delaware is the one that came in and, did it such a way to where all of the lawyers, where it was basically very, very beneficial for the corporation. So anything that's running through the courts and going through the Delaware system, it was, highly in favor of the corporation, right? So, so of the LLC, right? So, the LLC comes into play again, as I mentioned. This is one of the most flexible tools because with that legal entity structure there, you're able to be a C corporation or you can be a S corporation, or you can leave it in this default status where It's just a sole proprietor, where everything that your business makes is passed down through to you, the individual, and you report all of that on your tax return. But the beauty of the LLC is a sole member LLC, a single person that's managing and running an LLC can opt for that LLC to be operated and taxed as a C corporation, which gives it all of the rights as a full-blown corporation. You get all of the tax breaks as a C corporation. You get all of the benefits as a C corporation. And see, that's where a lot of the confusion come in at with the people, and with those in the financial industry that is keeping this whole thing a big secret. It's a secret to them because they don't want you to know how to flourish. They keep it all a big secret, right? So your LLC can be operated as a C corporation only by you. You don't have to have a board of directors. You don't have to follow all of that legal rigmarole or any of those things, and you can still effectively operate and manage your LLC as a single member C corporation with all of those same advantages as the big, humongous corporations that they try to make us all fear. They want you to fear that, and they want to paint the picture as corporations are bad, because guess what? If the general population think that corporations are bad and corporations are bad for the people, the last thing that you're going to think to do is to go out and set your business up as a corporation. You're not going to even think twice about it. And that's really how most people operate. And then you got all these little minions on YouTube that are promoting the S corporation. Let me tell you something. With the S corporation, it's nothing more than a fancy version of yourself, right? Nothing more than a fancy version of yourself. Because again, if your entity is not paying the taxes, right, it's the taxpayer. So we only have two taxpayers in this country: the individual taxpayer and the corporate taxpayer, right? And if you've got a company that's making a ton of money, but at the end of the year, you're passing all of that money to you as an individual, and you're reporting all of the money and everything that you made on your individual taxes, then what are you really building over here with the company? And you've got a whole nother option where your company itself can be the taxpayer, right? And another difference with the S corporation is investors won't even invest in the S corporation. They won't. The reason they don't invest in the S corporation, if we just get down all the way down to the bottom of it, is because it's a pass-through entity. All of the funds are passed through to the individual. They don't want to invest in you. They want to invest in a C corporation. The C corporation is the one that lives forever. It's perpetual existence. It never ever goes away unless you take the steps of the initiative to actually dissolve it. All right, now we're gonna go through some more of these differences um, between the C corporation and the S corporation, or comparisons, I shall say. All right. So the state corporation laws, they make no distinction between C corporations and S corporations when it comes to compliance responsibilities, right? All corporations are required to follow the internal and external corporate formalities and obligations, right? You have to have bylaws, stock, shareholder director meetings. You have to have all of that, right? And that's if you come in as a C corporation. So we have to be able to decipher the rules and the laws with all of this. Now, all of that applies for the C corporation, right? But if you form your company as an LLC, right? And then you choose to have that LLC taxed as a C corporation, none of these formalities will apply, although it's good business practice to follow them anyway, right? And so that's where your discipline has to come in at. That's where you need a great coach. That's where you need somebody that's knowledgeable of all of these things so they can point you in the right direction and sort through all of the what appears to be confusion, because on the surface level, if you don't really study these things and you're just a general citizen, just someone that's going about your day-to-day life, and you really don't study law and you really don't have a general understanding. I won't even say a general understanding, an in-depth understanding of the law, then it's going to seem crazy. It's going to seem absurd, the way these legal entities are allowed to operate. So you have to really have some in-depth understanding, or either you have to have somebody that's knowledgeable and that's willing to take you down through there, so you'll be able to really understand it. Because attorneys, and the same thing with these attorneys. These attorneys, listen, man, an attorney's job, there's no way, you've got some really bright, smart attorneys, that can retain things and all of that. But there's no way that one individual knows all of this stuff, right? They just know where to go get the information, right? They know the process. They know how to, decipher the information, go research the information, go find the information. They know how to present it in a legal way, but they don't know everything. They don't know all. And then your general attorney, if they're not a business law attorney, right? If they're not an attorney that practices and focuses on asset protection and, or taxes, if they're not a tax attorney, then 9 times out of 10, man, you can have an attorney that won't know anything about this, a criminal attorney. And criminal attorneys don't know, business law. They're just going to give you the very simple general answer that's available to the general population, because that's not their area of expertise. Now, can they find out if they choose to do the necessary research and go down that path? Most certainly they can find out. But that's not their area of expertise, so they don't spend time in those areas. So you can go to an attorney. Just because he's an attorney does not mean, that he knows how to form and operate and manage a C corporation, right? So the word is, you have to be careful with that. You have to be very, very careful with that. All right. So here goes some differences, right? And with taxation, with taxing, right? So for small business owners, right, and when it comes down to comparing the S corporations versus the C corporations, their decision usually comes down to how they want the corporation to be treated for federal income tax purposes, right? So the C corporations are separately taxable entities. They file a return, right? They file a corporate tax return. It's called a Form 1120, and they pay taxes at the corporate level. Mind you, that corporate level at this time in our country is a 21% flat tax. 21%, that's it. Operating as a C corporation, running a business, you're basically taxed at the 50 to 60%. You have to pay that individual income tax, which is about 37%, right? And then if you have a job, if you have employees, then you have to pay that tax for having the employees. You do get deductions and you get things like that. So I'm not just totally knocking the S corporation, but it's nowhere near as good as the C corporation, where you can, with the proper tax planning, you can minimize your taxes to zilch, to zero. Because again, with the proper tax planning, managing a C corporation or an LLC that is taxed as a C corporation, with the proper tax planning, you can have, with the proper investments and set up properly, there are ways to minimize your taxes to zero. I know everyone always says, the rich, oh, they don't pay taxes. Why they don't pay taxes? And da 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 da. But the IRS incentivizes them because they provide jobs. They contribute to the economy. They follow um basically they're in cahoots with the IRS, not in a bad way, but in a way where, if you contribute jobs, if you contribute to society, if you are contributing to the economy, then they incentivize you for that, and they minimize your taxes. That's, but they're basically your silent partner. Let's just say that they're basically a silent partner, right? And also, so I won't bore you guys, I'm gonna talk a little bit more, but I'm gonna pull up some videos. I'm gonna go ahead and share a couple of videos. I want to share a video real quick, and then I'm gonna resume where I was. But I want to stop and I want to share this video real quick. Let me see here. Let me go in and pull that up. I definitely want to share this video. It's on YouTube. Let me see here. All right, what am I gonna share? I'm gonna go over there. Share that window. All right. So, all right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this a couple of YouTube videos up that I want to share with you guys. Go here. All right. Where are we? Here's my Chrome. All right. Just a few minutes, guys, while I get this done. But man, y'all gotta just stay tuned because you need to stay tuned. You need to go like all of my pages, right? All of them. All of them. You need to go like all of my pages. Just go to the LLC Law Boss. You need to like the LLC Law Boss. Hold on, let me pull this YouTube. But Recherche Design Agency. My main page, Ernest Banks. All right, where we at? What we doing here? Give me 1 second. All right, hang on. I'm gonna get this right in a second. Going to YouTube here real quick. 1 moment. Why is that not doing that? Let's see. All right. I'll have to try something else. Hang on 1 second, guys. I'm trying to pull up my YouTube. All right, so I'll just share it from a tab. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I'm gonna get it to you. I mean, I'm gonna tell you. See, I'm gonna start sharing videos with you guys where you have different people like Robert Kiyosaki, different attorneys that will, give us that perspective that we really need. So you won't be so biased against me because a lot of people want to look for your credentials and want to say, oh, he's not an attorney or, what gives him the right. But you don't have to be an attorney to know things. You don't have to be an attorney to educate people or any of those things. You don't have to be an attorney to legally represent somebody or to legally advise somebody. So, that takes care of that. But we finna share some of these videos. We finna watch a few of these videos. Give me 1 second. And on the cool, this is gonna be so deep in. What I need to do really is end this live. And then let me see. Yep, end this live and start another one. That's really what I need to do. All right, there we go. Here we go. Go to the history. Of my videos. Okay. How y'all like my avatar? What y'all think about my avatar? What y'all think about that? All right. Let's see here. Man, I like added these clowns in my deal. All of that Tiffany Haddish and Eric Spears mess that's going on. Where are those videos? All right, so yeah, all right, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a separate live on that. I'm gonna go ahead and finish this with the comparisons of the S corp and the C corp, and then I'm gonna do that through a different live or through a whole different video. All right. So again, we were talking about the C corp and the S corp, and basically how with the C corp they file a form 1120. Now the C corp, you'll hear this a lot. You'll hear a lot of people talk about double taxation, right? They'll say, "Oh, you go get a C corp, you're gonna have to pay double taxes. You're gonna have to pay taxes on the money that that you receive if if you pay yourself dividends, and then the corporation itself has to pay taxes." Well, with the proper tax planning, this goes back to your ability to pay zero taxes, just depending on the type of business person that you are. If you're the type of business person where you want to hire people, you want to invest for your company, and you want to do all of those things, then you could definitely minimize and limit your tax liability with the proper tax planning, where you don't have to pay any taxes while they're talking about double taxation, because you're able to retain your earnings in the company. If you don't pay yourself, right? If you don't pay yourself anything, then what taxes do you have to pay? Tax avoidance is legal, with the proper tax planning. And I say that proudly. Even the IRS has information itself on tax avoidance. You are able to avoid paying taxes, with the proper tax planning, with the proper intent. Now, if you just somebody that's making a ton of money and you're an individual and you just trying not to pay your taxes, and you're not structured properly, and if you get $1 million and you got to pay 400,000 of it and you don't pay it, that's called tax evasion, and they're gonna lock your ass up. It's as simple as that. But tax avoidance is a totally different thing with the proper tax planning. And you're able to do that. That's one of the things that the people are just simply not aware of, because we've been duped into being so afraid of the IRS, not knowing that the IRS is our friend in business. All right. So that double taxation thing, yeah, it does exist, but with the proper tax planning, it does not have to exist, right? So you will possibly face double taxation, right? If the income is distributed to the business owner as dividends, right? Because dividends are what? They're considered personal taxable income. Corporate income is paid first at the corporate level and again at the individual level on dividends. Excuse me. S corps, right? S corps, they're pass-through taxation entities. They file an informational federal return, which is a Form 1120S, but no income tax is paid at the corporate level. The profits and losses of the business are instead passed through to the business and reported on the owner's personal tax returns. And any taxes paid at the individual level by the owners, right? Any tax due, rather, is paid at the individual level by the owners. Personal income taxes, right? With both C corporations and S corporations, personal income tax is due both on any salary drawn from the corporation and from any dividends received from the corporation. And let me chime in for just a minute about the LLC. The LLC is not a taxable entity. Your LLC will pay no taxes. Either you, the natural person, the individual will pay the taxes, or a C corporation will pay the taxes. That's it. Those are the only tax statuses. All right. That's it. Those are the only individuals that pay taxes. And a corporation also is considered a person. For those that don't know that, it has pretty much all of the rights as you and I. It can sue people, it can own property, it can, be sold, it can, it's so many different things and so many different benefits that the corporation has to offer, right? And I'll never be able to get it off in one live, which is why I love all of the information, right? All of the information that's related to this thing. All right. So where was I? And so we were talking about the profits and the losses. All right. All right. All right. So let's talk about corporate ownership, right? So state corporation laws, they don't make a distinction between the S Corp and the C Corp. But the Internal Revenue Code does place several restrictions on who could be shareholders in order for the corporation to qualify to be an S Corp. So some of the shareholder restrictions for the S Corp is this. The S Corp cannot have no more than 100 shareholders. And shareholders, they must be U.S. citizens and residents. Now, with C corporations, on the other hand, they have absolutely no restrictions on ownership. All right, absolutely none. S corporations cannot be owned by C corporations, which is another bummer, right? S corporations cannot be owned by C corporations. Other S corporations, with some exceptions, LLCs, partnerships, or mini trusts. Okay. All right. So let's talk about stock. S corporations can have only one class of stock, right? Disregarding voting rights, while C corporations can have multiple classes. Right now, here are a few at what some people say would be an advantage when setting up an S corporation, because there's only a single layer, right? There's only a single layer of taxation. Right. So that's pretty much the main advantage of the S Corp over the C Corp, is that an S Corp does not pay a corporate level income tax. That's really it. But who cares? Because with the proper tax planning and the proper understanding, you do not have to pay yourself. All of your money, all of the corporation's funds can be retained and kept within the corporation. So that's not an issue. It doesn't have to be an issue with the proper tax planning, right? All right. So basically, any distributions of income to the shareholders is only taxed at the individual level when it comes down to the S corp, right? So 20% qualified business income deduction, right? I know you hear a lot about that. In the Tax Cuts and Job Act of 2017, it gave eligible S corp shareholders a deduction up to 20% of net qualified business income. It's also known as QBI, right? All right, so let's talk about pass-through losses. Now, the losses of a S corp also pass through to its shareholders. All right, and what you could do is, whenever there's a loss, you can use those losses to offset your income. All right, but again, it's all subject to the tax code, right? So there are certain restrictions. So again, either you have to be thoroughly knowledgeable of these things, or you have to have an accountant or a CPA or a tax attorney, some legal professional that'll be able to help you out with that or point you in the right direction. But it's not difficult at all. All right. It's not difficult at all. All right. So where are we? All right. And another, what I like to consider a problem or restriction, something that the S Corp is not allowed to do. Most S Corps restrict their shareholders' ability to sell or transfer their shares, right? So let's say you got an S Corp and you may have a partner, right? And y'all are managing the S Corp, right? It's possible that you won't be able to, because again, you won't be able to transfer your shares because again, S Corps are not set up, they're not a good investment tool. You really don't find a lot of investors or um, venture capitalists or angel investors that will pour seed money into an S corporation. They just don't do it. They do not. All right. They do not do it. All right. So with the C Corp, there are way, way more advantages, in my opinion, than the S corporation, right? The C corporation, there's an unlimited number of shareholders. There's no limit on the number of shareholders a corporation taxed under subchapter C can have. So no restrictions on ownership. Anyone can own shares, including business entities and non-U.S. citizens. There's no restriction on classes. A C corp could issue more than one class of stock, including stock with preferences to dividends and distributions. There's a lower minimum tax rate. The 2017 Tax Reform Act lowered the capital tax rate to a flat 21%, and it also eliminated the alternative minimum tax. So even with the personal income tax rates being slightly lowered, this rate is lower than the maximum personal tax rate, which is currently 37%. All right. And if you're a C Corp, if you're an S Corp, all of that money gonna pass, it's gonna flow through to you, and you're gonna be paying it at a 37% tax rate, right? Don't have employees, then you got an additional 15% on top of that, right? Even though you get deductions and all of that could be minimized, but it's still nothing in comparison to the benefits of a C corporation. All right. So more, and then also there are more options, right? Let's say, you start your company up, you get hot, you know what I mean? And, things are going really well. Like, what's that young lady name? What's her name? She just started that restaurant. What's her name? Y'all, come on, tell me her name. Put her name in the comments. Look, I got to say that like I got some viewers, but that's all right because eventually I'm gonna have tons of viewers, right? The slutty vegan chick, right? She started that restaurant, Slutty Vegan, right? And I read an article not too long ago where they dumped like 5 million on her, right? They dropped out 5 million because somebody fell back and they said Slutty Vegan gonna be hot. I can see Slutty Vegan all across the nation. They loved her idea, they loved her concept, and they dumped like 5 million. Now, I may be wrong, don't quote me on that. That's just me paraphrasing on the article, but they dumped 5 million on her. Do you think that she was set up as a as an S corporation when they dumped that 5 million on her? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And so, you know, when it comes down to raising capital, when it comes down to seed money, angel investors, venture capitalists, they're all looking for you to pay taxes under subchapter C. Basically that's what a C corporation is. All right. They're looking for those that are paying taxes under subchapter C because subchapter C of the tax code does not impose the same restrictions on ownership as subchapter S. So it's easier for the C corp to obtain equity financing. As simple as that. And that's another thing that when we get to that point, man, when you have an investor, and when you talk about equity and all of those things, man, the business valuations and the formulas that they use will blow your mind. I mean, will blow your mind. If you have somebody invest in your company, of angel investor invest $1 million, your company gonna automatically be valuated at. There's the formula where it's about 4.5 million. That it'll be worth just off of that $1 million investment alone. So this whole thing, man, it's nice, it's beautiful, and they want to keep it hid from us. They don't want us to disseminate the information, but you got me coming through and y'all ain't gonna have to worry about it. You just pay attention, subscribe, share the videos, and you're gonna get what you need. All right, and the more I do this, the more I will be able to, break it down, and more compartmentalize it more, disseminate the information better. I'll be able to know what's needed, what's not needed, what type of information to disseminate, and all of those things. All right. So, and it's just these videos, they're gonna get better and better and more informative and more informative. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this live right now. But what I do want to do is I want to go check my little traps and I want to see, I'm gonna pull up my Facebook and see um if I can see if I'm actually here live, if they have me live, because I see no notifications. Let me go to the LLC Law Boss page and see if I'm on here live. I should be. All right, there I go. Hmm. All right. So I done popped this off for 39 minutes and I really didn't even talk about it a lot. And again, y'all, this is one of my first ones where I'm just trying to get out here and put this information out. I'm not this isn't anything that I've done. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm gonna get better and better at it. I'm gonna get better and better. But I'm gonna go ahead and end this live. Peace, hair grease, And actually I'm gonna go back live again in a little bit. All right, I just got some things I want to show y'all. Peace till later, people.